Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Jess Marshall podcast. This week, I'm very excited to welcome into the studio Lars Lofstrand, also known as Lofty. He's a serial entrepreneur. He runs Cryotherapy, and he also helps entrepreneurs, small business owners grow and scale their businesses as a coach. Looking forward to the conversation. Hope you enjoy it. Talk to you after. Talk, so don't let it scare you. It will the first time. Yeah.
If you don't mind just scooting up your chair just a little bit more.
What about me?
Is it for the sound or for the video?
This is just for video. You're doing perfect with sound.
Okay. Well, I'm a bit closer to the mic now. Is that okay?
Yeah. As long as it's more toward the center of your mouth.
Okay.
So you've got one of your kids is graduating?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, man.
Yeah, Friday.
Where's your gray hair?
Dude, I've got the color hair where you don't see it, but you'll see it in my beard. You see it in the sideburns now and again.
I take pride in that shit, man. I'm growing mine out. I put afro oil on mine.
Oh, really?
Just yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna look like Santa by Christmas, probably at this rate.
Yeah, I've definitely got my beard's gone white. So
is it legal for a former boy band member to have a gray beard?
Yeah.
Though? That's legal?
Yeah.
That's allowed?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's rad.
That's what the women are into nowadays. You know,
it
the
is,
gray.
man. Silver Fox, bro.
Yeah.
100%. You know, New Kids on the Block was here, right? What, 2, 3, 4 days ago?
Yeah.
But they had to reschedule because because of the Mavs game, I guess.
How come?
Well, they were supposed to
turn around.
They were supposed to play on Sunday, but the Mavs won their series, so the Mavs played game 1, and New Kids on the Block played Monday instead. I think that's how it went.
So they're not coming back then, or?
No, they ended up playing. They just had to postpone a day or whatever.
Oh, wow.
But when Donnie Wahlberg was on, I was listening to local radio, talking to him. I was thinking about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is as close as I'll ever get to an awesome boy band member. Was that experience when you were? Because when did you start that? You were young, pretty young.
I was, I think I was 17 when I first auditioned. But we were big through 18, when I was 18. So what was that, 1989 to 91 was our heyday.
Yeah. Did you have a stage fright issue, or were you kind of over that by then because you had already been performing?
Oh, yeah, over that.
Yeah.
I mean, you still get butterflies,
right?
Because it's exciting.
Well, that's what makes it fun. Yeah.
The smaller the gig, the more nervous you are.
Yes.
I think. Just because you can see the whites of people's eyes.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
When you play a stadium,
So whenever you guys are ready.
Right on. You want to fire that timer off whenever you're ready to?
How long do we talk? What is it?
Oh, I mean, we've gone. Ours that didn't work was over 2.
Really?
But yeah.
Dang.
But I mean,
So we got sound this time.
yes. Hey, yeah. Actually, Mike, would you please confirm that we are rolling volume on this one?
Oh shoot! Actually,
Asshole.
I'm just doing it. We're all good, guys.
Hey, I appreciate
we had good video from last time though.
Man, I know, and we could have gone for 3 hours because we were just fucking spitting fire back
Jeez,
and
I
forth.
can't remember what it was, but I remember it was good.
Lots of corporate talk and culture talk and entrepreneurship talk and stuff like that. But you speak now though all the time, don't you? You speak
not as much as I used to.
well. Did COVID affect that?
Yeah. Yeah, we used to run seminars and all mine were live. Nobody wants to pay online, you know, Zoom call. So, but yeah, I'm trying to reinvent myself, you know, just trying to see what I want to be when I grow up.
Well, you have a very diverse background in terms of obviously your you stardom at a youth, but then you know, all of the businesses that you've started and run and your entrepreneurship. Back to that Zoom stuff, though. I was talking to a personnel, like a staffing and recruiting expert a couple weeks ago, who's also a rugby guy. And we were just talking about how hard it is to connect over a screen. Mm-hmm. That has to be, I mean, I don't like a virtual, I don't do these virtually. Mm-hmm. It's just not the same.
No.
Was that just a complete shock to the system when COVID fired off?
100%. I've been trying to transition online and I haven't been able to do it, you know. I think it's just a generational thing. Just missed that generation. I'm just too old, you know. But young kids, I mean, my kids do everything on their screen. They do everything on their phone, you know. I think it's a generational thing. But you know, the generations have changed, you know. We're tactile creatures, but kids are learning to do everything online. They've lost that human touch thing. I think that's half the problem with most of the things that are happening in the world today.
Yeah,
there's no feel anymore.
There's certainly a different dynamic when you're just sitting with someone. You pick up on their social cues and their body language and all of that. But I also don't think that you don't get the warm fuzzy from somebody over a screen, even if they're saying things, because it's just different.
Yeah.
The kids thing, them not having a problem with doing everything on screen, that's, more power to them. I just don't see any way to develop, if you're in sales, for instance, how are you going to close a big sale if you never actually meet the client in person so they get a feel for you? Like, is this guy a creep? Does this guy got shifty eyes? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. It's a tough one. The communication, they say, 7% is the words you say, 38% how you say those words, but 55% is body language. And that's kind of the feel we're talking about, most of that is feel.
Say that all again. 55% of the way you communicate with another human is body language?
Yeah. So it's the unspoken, it's what you're doing with your body and what your eyes say and that kind of feel you don't get on video. You lose a lot of that.
Right.
I mean, you get some of it on video, but that's why if you look at radio, you lose 55% of communication because there's no visual, So that's why radio now goes, where they're filming somebody like what we're doing today.
Yeah. The industry, though, like the convention seminar industry is slowly coming back, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity there for those that have stuck with it and that don't give up on it to make that dog hunt. I guess it's just a matter of convincing people that they do need to come out to an actual in-person event to get the value that you're offering.
Yeah. Well, we did, I'm involved with the Cryotherapy conference that I own, and our first one, so this was our second year, we're going on to our third next year, but our first one we ran in the middle of the pandemic, and I think it was so well attended because the first one was an absolute hit and was touch and go, but we had paid everything, we couldn't really cancel, we were beyond the point of no return. But I think people came out, especially the Californians, because they weren't allowed to do anything, Texas was pretty much, we still were open to a lot of things, but people came out, especially because they wanted to get out and they wanted to meet people. They hadn't done anything for a year or two, So our conference was very good the first year.
The crowd thing, how'd you get into that?
So I had a client that I was coaching, and she owns 3 stores. And the more I learned about cryo, I realized it was a new up-and-coming industry. I think she joined the industry when there were maybe 40 people. There's like 10,000 people involved in the industry now. And back then there were
a handful. That's 10,000 like brick and mortar.
No, it's probably. I'm not too sure what it is. It's a couple thousand now. But when she was around, there were maybe 40 stores, if that, maybe
total.
Total
in the country.
Yeah, there's a guy called Jim, and he's got a franchise called Restore. He opens 3 stores a week.
Wow,
a week,
all around,
all over America.
Wow.
So they're kind of the market leaders. They're opening stores. They got big funding, I believe, to open stores. But that shows you how quick and that's just one franchise opening.
Yeah.
So, I spoke to her and I said, is there a conference going on? No conference. I said, well, let's own the space. And that's kind of what we did, So we put on a conference because I'd done seminars, nothing at that scale before. But, it's going well. So we're in our 3rd year at the moment.
What's it called? Cryocon?
Cryocon.
And it's here every year, or it has been?
It has been, yeah.
Do you have plans to maybe move that at some point? You go to Chicago, what are there, like 55, 60 shootings a weekend up there? You go up there? Yeah, cool. Central,
Well, most of the cryos are still here in Dallas, so this is kind of where it started.
Is this really the hub?
It's kind of a hub. Yeah.
Really?
And then... but there's talk of us going overseas and running one there, So it's an international conference now. First year was national, second year was international, so we had a lot of international people come in. Third year will be even bigger internationally. But we're thinking about doing something in Dubai. So we've got a guy who comes out. He's a player in the market, and he's talking to us about doing something in Dubai, you know. But this will always be our main one.
Sure.
It'll never always be in Dallas, but until we're really established, probably the first 5 years will be in Dallas.
Let's get with me before you schedule that Dubai one, and I'll make sure that it's during the same week as the Dubai Rugby Sevens.
Well, there we go.
And then boom, boom. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
2 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah, 100%.
So, this like advent of biohacking, health, wellness, anti-aging. What does cryo even do?
So cryotherapy, so our conference is changing too, you know. So cryotherapy, we started off, so cryotherapy is really, it's basically freezing your body, which has benefits. I'm not a very technical guy on it, but the little I do know. So you go and your body goes into kind of a fight or flight response, you know, so it feels like it's dying. And then what happens is when you get out, it sends all this good oxygenated blood back into your system, which helps with weight loss, helps with, soreness of muscles, healing, stuff like that, you know?
What are the main barriers to entry? Like if I want to open a cryo clinic in, I don't know, let's pick somewhere where a ton of people live, like Salina, Kansas. Do you think it'd be a big player in the Midwest cryo? What's my barrier to entry though? Just the cost of the machine?
Yeah. So machines anywhere from 80 to 100 to 120, depending which way you go, you know. So
what's a session cost?
Anywhere from $25 to say $50 is the norm. Just depending on where you go.
Okay, depends
Location,
on where you go.
Depends on the store.
Sure.
Some people are cheaper than others.
Right.
Some are mom and pop shops, so they tend to be a little bit cheaper. The franchises tend to be around $40 to $50 a session.
So if you could pull $250,000 together, you could secure a space, outfit the space, put one machine in there, build a client base, and then possibly add a machine. Yeah. Maybe add a hyperbaric chamber, something like that.
Well, that's what's happening. Our conference started off as a cryo conference. That's why it's called CryoCon. It stands for cryo conference. But what's happening is other modalities that they're adding, like salt chambers, red light therapy, saunas. So now we're changing it to, it'll still be called CryoCon because it's a brand, but it'll be the CryoCon Wellness Conference as opposed to just cryotherapy, because we're doing other things other than cryo. Cryo is still at the core. So we're servicing that industry, but, it's kind of spas are starting to put cryotherapy in there. Gyms are starting to put cryotherapy machines in. So it's not just cryotherapy places, And then cryotherapy places are not just doing cryotherapy anymore. They're also doing... There we go. Oh, good. Okay.
So the global cryo market size was estimated at 3.8 billion US in 2020 and is expected to reach 4.2 bill US in 2021, which means it's now 2022. It's probably grown by even more than that. Well, multiply that 4.2 billion times 10. You send that to the Ukraine to help them out, right? Isn't that what they sent them? 40.
Well, there we go. So 10.3%. It's growing every year. That's huge.
That's amazing, man. So is that your main focus? And are you like if I came to you as like, look, my great aunt left me this money and I want to do this, you'd be able to hook me up like these are the machines you need, this is the CRM I recommend, that type of stuff?
We could point you in the right direction because obviously, we're really an education conference. That's what the conference is. It's to educate. It's to better the industry because they're going to start legislating it too. So at the moment, it's kind of the Wild West. There's no legislation, but once it grows and the government sees it's growing, it's a safety thing, because you can burn people if you don't do it properly.
Did Antonio Brown burn the bottom of his feet? Remember that receiver?
I did see
his
that.
feet.
And there was somebody in Australia that got really badly burnt. Also, she was a Olympic something or other.
Oh, I thought you were about to say like a rugby league front row or something, because that would not fucking surprise me. Hey, bro, I'm going to just walk in here with no socks on.
She got burnt pretty bad. I think they left her in too long because you can't stay in there too long. You get frostbite,
Yeah.
So
it's just very interesting. I find it encouraging because I'm way into biohacking. Like if I have a problem, I would sure as hell much rather find a way to solve that problem without having to pop a pill. I think a lot more people, well, those numbers prove it, are starting to just, man, I maybe I don't need to have my knee scoped. Maybe I can solve this another way or whatever. Is that you see the industry overall growing, the wellness industry, just because people are like, man, we got to get a handle on that. And why is that? Is that because knowledge is more readily available, like on social media and stuff? Or?
Well, I definitely see that, things are going from a cure to prevention. So if you look at the medical industry, in my opinion, what I've seen is, they're there to, and not even so much to find a cure, but they're getting you once you're sick. The wellness industry is moving towards, getting you before you're sick. So let's do preventative care, and that's kind of where it's going, So what drives that probably is education. People starting to see that, what we were recommended before. I think the big pharmaceuticals kind of controlled, what you got fed so that they could sell you something, and that's the biohacking's, kind of against that's preventative. Hey, how do we not take medication? How do we do something so we don't get sick?
Yeah,
so that's what I'm seeing.
I don't think that was the goal of the pharmaceutical companies. I know it was the goal.
There we go, of
I
course.
mean, it's just insanity that
well, they're legal drug dealers, and that's,
they are.
Yeah.
And they're in bed with the other legal drug dealers, which are the processed food manufacturers, because man, it's easy to get your hands on refined sugar and all that just absolutely destroys your body, your ability to digest, your metabolism. So if we can get you sick, but it tastes good, and then we can keep you sick, and then we can treat you, but you're going to have to buy this for the rest of your life to stay healthy.
Of course.
I mean,
if you were an investor, would you invest in a pill that you make $20 off that cures you, or would you invest in a pill that you make $1 a day that somebody can be fed for the rest of their life? It's
$1 a day, man.
The dollar is what's leading it. It's not a cure anymore, So. Yeah. Anyway, well, that's my observation. I'm not an expert in the medical side, but you can see, they're trying to, especially in America, Americans, and this is not a dig on Americans, but the culture in America is, if something's wrong, pop a pill. Mm-hmm. In my country, we just, drink some water. You're feeling a headache, drink some water. You're probably dehydrated. Whereas here, they pop a pill. I used to date a girl when I first got divorced. She had a pill for everything. And if I had a headache, oh, take this,
Yeah.
I'm feeling down.
Those are the
take
best
this.
girls,
I'm feeling
bro.
up, take this.
Yeah. Feeling tired.
Yeah, take this.
Feeling too energetic.
Yeah, exactly.
Feeling anxious.
She had a pill for everything, So.
Interesting.
But that's a very cultural thing here, everything's pill popping here.
It's just rub some dirt and pour some water on it in South Africa. Yeah. Really? Yeah.
Well, I think it's going that route too, where we're relying more and more and more on medication, but people are over-medicated, in my opinion, We take a pill for everything.
I would be very interested to see what those numbers say once we're through 2022, because I surmise that the last 25 months, 26, 27 months have changed a lot of people's minds about who they can trust with their health. They say, the medical profession, they take an oath. They have to shoot me straight. And then if you go to 3 different doctors, you're going to get 3 completely different answers. I would put it to you that probably all 3 have a prescription to sell you.
Yeah.
And I
don't think they even know they do that. You're just so conditioned. You're in that field, and this is what you told. Hey, this will work. So that's what they sell you. So I don't think it's always premeditated that they're just trying to sell you something.
Probably not. I don't see them going back and going, that paycheck was a little heavy.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and scrape, about 10% off and, let's put that back into something natural. Just the food we eat and the way food is marketed. And that's part of our culture here too. It doesn't matter what the occasion is. There's booze always involved. And then there's just processed food always everywhere. And it's just insanity. If you had 10 mil and you were ready to roll, would you start one of these wellness clinics with every option in it? Or do you think it's a labor-intensive, non-scalable undertaking?
I'm in a different part of my life now, whereas if I had a lot of money to not have to do anything, I'd probably do that exactly nothing.
Yeah.
But I would be educating. I would do what I like to do, which is talk, speak, coach, and train. But I am starting to get a love for the wellness industry, The older you get too, you start looking at your health, Your knees are starting to get sore. But, I try to stay away from businesses where it's very labor intensive. So anything with retail kind of becomes labor intensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I'm definitely interested in the industry. And so you asked me the question, that's my main focus. It's starting to become my main focus. In fact, I think it will be by year 5, it'll probably be the only thing I have to do because we're doubling every year, then it'll be able to sustain us. So we make a profit every year, but it's not huge, because we're still growing.
Sure.
So everything goes back into the business, but it'll come a point where I think we'll start making a lot of money, and that's the only thing I'll do, you know.
How many attendees at the at this most recent?
So we have anywhere from when we started, I think we had 220, we had 300, and I think 50 this year, and next year I'm hoping to get 500 next year. That's the goal.
Very cool.
And that's without any marketing. Mm-hmm. Everything's organic, you know.
Are there market reps there too, like industry reps, or are these mostly just burgeoning entrepreneurs who are coming to the convention?
So what it is there's two parts. You have the sponsors, you know, the people exhibiting. So because we've got an expo attached to it, so it's an expo and a conference. And then it's not so much the end users, but it's the end user from the point of view, the people buying the machine and supplying the service of cryotherapy. So it's not general public who are using the machines. Although, you know, the people that have the stores, they use their own product, obviously. But, you know, it's store owners, entrepreneurs, franchise owners. So those are the ones we educate, and we do that with the sponsors coming in who give workshops or talks. Here's the newest product. And then they're displaying, you know, the first year we had 20 sponsors. This last year we had 41. This coming year we'll have 65.
That's rad, man.
So it's, you know, it's
growing.
doubling. Yeah, it's growing.
Yeah, it's got real indications that it's going to really take off.
And the first year we had to chase people down, you know.
Yeah.
The second year people were like, I mean, we had a waiting list of 10. We ran out of space at the hotel. We couldn't fit anymore, you know. So
yeah, that's
we
awesome.
originally had 30 planned, but we took another side room that they had, but then I mean we were out of space.
Yeah.
And we got to 41s. But this year we've got up to 65 we can have, which I think we will easy get, you know, because we had 10 extra that we couldn't put in the facility.
Yeah.
So they went on a waiting list.
Well, yeah, and as everything comes back, and everyone's getting used to moving around again and getting together in person again, I think that things are going to just absolutely take off.
Yeah, they're loving getting together again because they've been so starved.
Well, if you started it when COVID started and it's still alive, that's a hell of an indicator.
Yeah, 2020 was our first one, March. So COVID happened, when was it? January, I think it was.
Yeah, so the last week of February of 2020. When they announced that it was an issue and people were falling down dead in the streets in Wuhan.
Well, so that first year we had a lot of people that couldn't travel because their states wouldn't let them, you know, leave the state without coming back and doing a whole lot of tests and stuff like that. So we had a lot of people who couldn't come. The Canadians couldn't come. They were totally shut down. And funny enough, that first year, it ended up being a blessing. And that's why I always say, you know, as friction sharpens a pencil, so adversity sharpens the man. But the adversity we had was the week before. Remember, we had that freeze. You being in the roofing business, remember the freeze that year?
Oh, yes, sir.
And the hotel or the country club we were using flooded. So it was totally destroyed when we had to change venue. Luckily, the hotel across the street is on the same property as them. It was there at, what's the country club called? It's on Legacy Drive.
In Plano?
Yeah,
Cimarron?
No. Is it Prestonwood Country Club?
Yeah, it might be. I must confess, I'm not a big golf man.
Yeah, I'm also not. So, but anyway, it was at the country club, and there's a hotel there. It was a Marriott that is on their property. So they just put it there, and we got a quote there, and it was double what the country club was. That's all we had at the country club, first one. So they honored the same prices. So it was a blessing.
Was it Legacy Ridge?
No, it's I think it is.
Well, either way, you pulled it off.
Come to me. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing, though. You're talking about friction. Like you see a lot of fear going around. We got this inflation. Oh, we're going to be in a recession, whatever. And yet, the most successful business people, they see recession as a massive opportunity. Not woe is me, I'm a victim. They're like, no, we're going to find a way to make this dog hunt. We're going to make this actually work. And so, you know, we've actually sat down before, but unfortunately the volume didn't work. So thank you for coming back.
No problem. Thank you.
But we talked a lot about adversity, and that was like right at the beginning of COVID. That was in the fall of COVID year number 1. And we're talking along, I mean, things have gotten so much crazier than they were even then.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Well, you know, I've got this slide. So when I give a talk, I've got this slide. It's kind of an icebreaker I start with, and I put it up on the screen. And it's got all these top companies, you know, Fortune 500 companies like McDonald's and Johnson & Johnson. And So I ask this question, and it's off the bat. I say, what do these companies have in common? And people put up their hand and say, oh, they're all publicly traded, they're all large, they're Fortune 500, they all got marketing budget, blah, blah, blah. And the one thing they don't get to, and this is the point I make in the talk, is I say every one of these companies on the screen was started either in a depression or in a recession. In other words, all these companies were started in hard times. And the reason I share that is because it's sometimes hard times that get you to be more successful. Nothing that comes easy it has value. If it comes easy, it's not really valuable. Think about, the first car. Maybe you were given a car by your parents. You don't value it as much as the car that you have to, earn and pay for yourself. So, and that's why one of my favorite quotes, I said it earlier, is as friction sharpens a pencil, so adversity sharpens a man. Adversity is there to help us learn. Adversity is there, to help us grow and to be better. And I think that was the point of that slide, is that, and as you say with COVID, I think COVID, it definitely helped me, or is helping me, I would say, reinvent or re-engineer my business, So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, and when you observe highly successful people, those are people who actually seek out the adversity. Mm-hmm. They're aiming for failure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they want to succeed, but they're going hard, man. They're not like, well, timing, I don't know. Yeah. They're like, no. I know this will work. We're just gonna have to go and.
Well, our schooling system doesn't support that.
No way!
They don't support somebody failing. In fact, a whole schooling system and a whole conditioning is to punish people who fail. And that's not real life, and that's the problem. People leave school, they may get good grades, but they leave school and they can't, they can't live or they can't exist in the real world, because the real world just doesn't operate the same way as we taught, It's a problem.
No, it does punish failure, and it also does not encourage creativity very
100%.
Often.
Well, to be creative, you got to be able to fail. You got to be willing to fail.
Yes.
If you're not willing to fail,
Well, no doubt. And with some children about to graduate from high school, don't you also find it just shocking that there's no class in senior level high school about how credit works? There's no class about managing finances. It's just, okay, go to college, get a job, pay your taxes, and 2 weeks off a year. Have a good one. You're now,
it's crazy.
Contributing American.
Funny you say something. I saw this on the internet the other day. I think it was in Florida. Did you see that? Where they've put into legislation now for the schooling,
DeSantis, yes,
the credit, everything you just mentioned,
financial literacy course,
something like that. Was that Florida?
Yes, it's DeSantis. Yeah, he's really on the he's on the vanguard of many of these important issues. Mm-hmm. I think he makes Abbott look really bad, because everything DeSantis does, Abbott does like two months or 2 years late. Well, I mean, that's my observation. Really? Abbott's fine. He'll probably win again. I don't know, Beto yesterday got up and screamed at Abbott at a town hall.
I'm not a big one to follow the politics, man.
You're probably doing yourself a favor there, brother.
You guys have got these two parties you vote for every year. One's in 1 year, one's in the next. I call it, it's the same snake just with two heads.
You ain't lying. No, I'm not a two-party man. I'm independent, 100% as a person and in my politics. It's crazy. I didn't come up with this. Rogan did. But don't you think it's nuts that the executive branch, we always get two options and everyone has to pick the lesser evil in their mind. Yeah. And it's two people who no Fortune 500 company would ever hire as a CEO. And yet they are voted as the executive, the CEO of the United States of America.
It's very crazy.
It is.
In my country, you got like 15 different people you could vote for,
Yeah.
I mean, we got probably two main parties too that most people do vote for, but we do have a lot of options. Which I suppose you do have a couple of options. Yeah, people just don't vote for them, right?
Or they
think it will steal a vote away from one of the.
Yes, I think Ross Perot was probably got the closest. Mm-hmm. That was when I was pretty young, and it was always, well, you can't vote for him, or it'll take the vote away from.
Didn't Ron Paul once run as an independent?
Oh, hell yeah, many times. Yeah, I mean, I voted for Ron. Ron's awesome, and his son is as awesome. So, yes, the independent libertarian. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think those are interchangeable. They're not necessarily, but a lot of what libertarians stand for is what a lot of independents stand for. Yeah, the two-party system seems very anti-American, right? America America where you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you can make your own dreams come true. And yet we've got no one running on an independent ticket that could actually make it for whatever reason. And I think that speaks to the very deep-rooted corruption and just at all levels. But we don't have to get all squirreled off into politics.
Don't get me going on that kind of stuff.
It's very discouraging, you know. But it is what it is. It's just up to us to make those small micro changes in our spheres of influence, right? To talk to other fearless folks who are living a life that requires some initiative and some ambition. When you first sign someone up to coach them, you know, young entrepreneur, in this climate now, you got inflation, you got these different styles of communication now. People may or may not want to meet you in person. Kind of how do you get the ball rolling with a new coach entrepreneurship client? Like, hey man, Lars, I know you've started a bunch of businesses. I need your help. I don't really know what next steps to take. Are you like, look, let's real talk this thing out? Are you setting expectations right off the bat? This ain't going to be easy, but I know you didn't sign up for easy. Or how does that conversation go?
Well, anything's easy if you look in hindsight, you know. So I was actually thinking about this the other day, you know. When we're in the now, like right now, we think to ourselves, like I was thinking about it for real estate, man, you know, real estate prices have gone through the roof. Oh, who can afford to get a house now? But when we look back on this in 10 years' time, we'll think, oh, how good we had it back then. You know? So it always seems hard now when you trying to invest in something because, we don't have enough money to invest in something. But when you look back, if you make that investment, you make that sacrifice. When you look back on it in hindsight, it was easier to do it then, you know. So, you know, I find that most people either live in the past or in the future. We don't kind of live in the present on what's currently happening. So, yeah, you know, I try to get people to get to the truth as soon as possible. Jim Collins talks about in his book, Good to Great, you know, people, if this was a rock and you pick up the rock, there's all these squiggly things. Most people put the rock back down because they don't want to acknowledge that those are the squiggly things. But he says the great companies actually picked that rock up and said, okay, let's look at those things because that's where the real value is. And it's getting somebody to have the courage to look at those things because we tend to want to be in denial. We tend to want to, you know, pretend that everything's okay, you know. And that's why if you look at it, and I've done this before and I'll share a story with you, but we tend to, you know, when we look for advice, we want to open a new business. We'll go to people who support us, you know, which is important. But I think it's also important to go to people who will tell us the truth because, you know, once again, in hindsight, we think to ourselves, man, I wish, you know, somebody had told me. I'll give you a real story that happened to me.
Okay.
So I was still in South Africa and I was going to invest in this coffee shop. So I already owned a furniture manufacturing company. So we were going to open a coffee shop where we also had a showroom with furniture and you would sit in the furniture at the coffee shop and have lounge, you know, because we made contemporary, very upmarket furniture. So it was going to be a showroom and a coffee shop at the same time. And at the time, I was coaching these three Greek guys who, you know, ran very successful different franchise, you know, coffee shops, restaurants, buffets, etc.
So they were an organized crime.
Yeah, something like that. They were laundering. No, they were legit restaurateurs. But the point is this: I went to all my friends, and all my friends told me, "Man, it's a great idea. This concept you got, great idea." Then I went to my client because I thought, oh, you know, he owns 28 different restaurants. Let me ask him. You know, I went to him. He says, "You're going to lose money." So do you think I went back to him? What did I do? I stopped going to advice. Why? Because sometimes you want to get the answer you want to get, not the truth, you know?
Yeah.
And what happened a year later, I sold it. I managed to get out, but I didn't make money. Looked like I was going to lose money, you know? But, you know, I managed to salvage and break even and sell the concept off to somebody else who really wanted to run with it, you know? And they took the manufacturing piece out of it. But the point is, you know, we tend to not want to hear the truth. People say they want to hear the truth until they hear it. And then like, well, no, I'm actually okay with where I'm at, you know, okay to be in denial.
Business is very binary. It's very sink or swim. What's the balance sheet say? What's the P&L say? What's AR say? Are we in debt? Can we pay it off? What's our cash flow? And if you get excited about something, it's hard to see it for what it really is. It's much easier to see it for what you want it to be. And as an entrepreneur, you can't lose the visionary part of yourself or the just the pure drive and ambition where you get excited about something. But man, I've had the same thing, right? Like go to hire somebody. people on my team, they're not right for the job. And I see some potential there, and I'm like, no, I'll work with them. I can get him
I
to
can
be.
fix him.
And do you think that's ever worked?
No,
Yeah.
very seldom.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all. I'm living proof. And it takes some humility when you are the visionary to say, yeah, or to say, I'm going to go after what I don't want to hear, and I'm going to listen to it all objectively and gather as much data as possible, and then I'll make a decision. But I'm really going to make sure that I have an honest pro list and an honest con list. Because I've started shit before, too, where I knew there were massive cons.
Yeah.
I just blew past that. I was like,
or you tend to have a blind spot for them,
Yeah.
Purposefully, you choose that.
Yeah.
Because, and it's a fine line because you want to be optimistic. Because if you look at reality, what is really reality? Reality is what you make it, So, it's a difference between, say, having, being optimistic and also being realistic. But then I also look at what is realistic. Realistic is based on what your level of capacity is. So if your level of capacity is, that's kind of what you can see. You can't really see more than that. So that's why, I do think it's important to have those stretch goals to stretch you beyond what it is that you think you can get from a capacity point of view. But I think what's important, and you said it probably the best, is where, you need credible information. And that's why I always, if I'm ever doing something, or if I ever hire somebody who is going to counsel me or give me counsel to make better decisions, I'll always get somebody who loves me, and I'll always get somebody who doesn't like me as much, because you need the encouragement from the person who loves you and backs you, but then you also need somebody to tell you the truth. Say, hey, actually, like I told you, my client, he told me, hey, you're going to lose money on this. It's a bad idea.
Did he give you a reason why he thought it would lose money?
How I was structuring it.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about the industry, He's been through, 100 different restaurants. He's been doing restaurants his whole life since he was 18.
Yeah.
So he obviously sees things that I don't see,
Yeah.
And, the challenge with the brain, I know we spoke about this the last time, you've got a conscious and a subconscious brain, and 87% of your subconscious brain, 87% of your thinking is your subconscious brain, and the primary role of your brain or your subconscious is to protect you from pain. So if it's going to see pain in any way, it creates this blind spot that it doesn't acknowledge that it's there because it's too painful to. So that's that is the challenge where you can sometimes be too positive, where you don't allow for the real things to come in that might make you choose something different if you had more credible information. So I'm all about that, having credible information before you do anything,
The that strong, silent lone wolf type that just like Elon Musk. You think he's got a committee of people that he runs shit by?
I absolutely do.
Yeah. Think they all do? Bezos,
absolutely.
him.
Yeah. I think those top guys have got very good advisors.
Farmer Bill. Bill Gates buying all the farmland.
I mean, they're drivers, though, so whether they listen to them or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think you get to a point where you realize that, I often hear that in the success industry. They'll say, oh, that guy's a self-made man. Nobody's self-made. You're either made or unmade by everybody you surround with, I mean, we've actually got this saying in South Africa, it's called Ubuntu. You might have heard of it. There's actually a software called Ubuntu, and I'm trying to think who started that Ubuntu. What's his name? He's also South African. It's an open source software. But Ubuntu means directly translated, and you probably can't translate directly, but it loosely means I am who I am because of who you are. And what Ubuntu does is, it acknowledges the humanity in somebody else. It acknowledges that, you can't do things on your own. There's always somebody who's influenced you to do something, That's a Shuttleworth. That's the name I was looking for.
Thanks, White.
Who's behind that there? There we go, Ubuntu. That's how you say it.
Right on. I am who I am because of who you are. Yeah. So you're starting a business. The de jour thing that most gurus talk about is how, people, those are your greatest asset, man. You gotta have culture, you gotta invest. And then we get where we are now, right? May 2022, almost June. And people still quitting their jobs. Restaurants still have to keep doors closed because they don't have people to work. People aren't showing up to interview. It's just a whole new climate in terms of the workforce, the personnel there? Have you seen this shift in culture in companies that you've worked with where, hey, everyone used to come into the office, we had office outings, our culture was up, we did awards or whatever people do to keep everyone on track, and then everyone has to go to their own corners, 6-foot rule, whatever. Have you seen that damage culture? Have you seen some people really roll with the punches well, or some other people really suffer because of all that's happened?
Well, I think businesses, I mean, like you say, there's some people just don't want to work. So you have all these packages that the government puts out giving free money away, and that stops people wanting to work,
I know, but they're not even giving that much away. Like, how are these people paying their bills?
I don't know. But I know there's like
and
in the restaurant.
You can get evicted now. There's the eviction, the stay eviction.
But I do know, like in the restaurant industry, there's a huge shortage of people wanting to be waiters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be these, but I think that's, again, that's kind of Generation Z or the millennial generation. They want to come out of college and be a CEO directly, that they don't want to put in the time and they want to be CEO straight. I think that's just it's become a what do they call it, a generational gap thing, So I think that has changed. But what I have seen is, COVID has fundamentally changed how we do business. For example, the seminar business is not as popular as it was before because now people are doing Zoom. People rather than leave their home to go on a seminar, they would rather do it online. However,
but when you go to a conference or a seminar, aren't you going to network?
But that's what I'm saying. So the only thing that's drawing them now, it's not the information because you can get the information online. Now it's to have some social, interaction because we are what they call tactile creatures. We want to touch, feel, and see things, So, but I think it's also a generational thing, like my kids are brought up, doing this. They'll talk to each other, literally sitting on the couch, talk to each other on the phone, not to each other, They could be in different rooms in the same house and they talk to each other.
Do you embrace that, or do you say, hey, phone's down, we're doing a no phone 4-hour family time?
I do try to do no phone. So like when I go home, I try, not to be on the phone. But it's difficult because the culture is just moving that way. The first thing we do when we wake up, the first thing I do is I open my phone and, check what I've missed.
Yeah. I've recently started giving myself 30 minutes. I wake up, I don't look at it at all.
Yeah, that's very good.
Go outside, bare feet, get the feet on the ground, and just get some light in my eyes. I get
mine turning off. You can have it where it doesn't ring.
Yep.
So I think mine's set at 7 o'clock. Then it doesn't ring anymore. I don't get notifications.
Awesome.
So that helps a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're in such a habit of fear of missing out.
No doubt.
It's just a cultural thing.
Has there been a balance shift in terms of the leverage that the workforce has now that they didn't have in the past? They can come to an employer now. Good, talented self-starters are not walking in off the street, man. They're just not. They're hard to find. If you are one of those people, can't you kind of call your own shot right now?
I think so.
Hey, you want to hire me? So. That's cool, but I'm out of here at 3. I'm picking my kid up.
Yeah, I'm working with a company now, and I see that with the performers. When you're a performer, they let you get away with more than if you're not performing.
Yeah.
But I think that's a natural thing. You want to keep people who are beneficial to you. You want to keep people that are contributing as opposed to just taking, But yeah, it's markets. I don't get that where restaurants, they don't have staff. You'll go to a restaurant now and you have 2 waiters there, whereas before you had 10.
Yeah, and half the restaurants closed.
Yeah, where are all these people?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Is this a crypto thing? I've heard that's just a way too simple of an answer to a very complex question.
I did see the other day, though, and like I said, I try to have businesses where, and it's ironic because, you had the saying where, people are your greatest asset. I do believe that, but I also try and have businesses where we have less people because that human element is just dynamic. It's ever changing, and you just can't you can't pigeonhole something because the human being could change their mind, or the human being could make a choice that goes against what the flow should be. So I did see the other day, and I think it was an Amazon store that's unmanned. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Where you go into the store, everything's tagged. You literally, when you walk out the door, you've got an account and it registers everything that you took, so you can't steal anything from the store. You don't need anybody at the store. They probably just got one person that just makes sure that everything's okay in the store. But it's literally a store where they don't have employees, And I think that's the way the world's going to start going. and I don't know what's going to happen, to people. It's
they're all just going to live in their metaverse, and they're going to have.
I don't know. I'm just not that
digital real estate, and
I don't know.
like,
things are. I mean,
they're going to print their cheeseburger on a 3D printer.
It's crazy. The world's.
I mean,
what's
our life expectancy now is in the low 80s. So if all that I just said happens, what's it going to go back to caveman? Like life expectancy would be like 40, 42 years old.
I don't know. It's crazy, man.
You're not going outside because people haven't been going outside.
Have you seen the movie WALL-E?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of,
yeah.
And that's the funny thing. And I've been watching, just when we got more time, I've been watching a lot of these older movies, these sci-fi movies that show the future.
Right.
But it's like now, you know, the date that they'd said 20 years ago is now.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that when we watch the movie there, we're going, that's crazy. That'll never happen. We're beyond it.
Have you seen
It's happened. And
have you seen Idiocracy?
No.
Bro.
Really?
Bro.
I'm going to watch that.
Luke Wilson, Dax Shepard, Terry Crews. I don't remember who else. Maybe Zoe Deschanel. Bro.
Really? Is it a documentary? Or?
No, it's a movie, and it's very inappropriate in some places. I mean, it's not safe for work, but it's just a movie. It's a comedy.
Yeah.
And they like water the crops with Diet Mountain Dew. It's insane, man. I would check that out as an older movie that now doubles as a documentary for crying out loud. It's just.
So it's not a new movie. I thought
it's old, man. When did that come out? Does it say on IMDb when that came out, Swipe? I'm talking 10 years ago. Easy. Maybe 15.
I need to watch it. I've been watching some older movies.
Idiocracy came out in 2006, and it's also directed by Mike Judge. So Office Space, Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill. So a comic that kind of puts like everyday life in perspective.
14 years ago, is that right?
2006.
16
years ago.
16 years ago.
Come on, man. What kind of math did they teach you in South Africa?
Well, 2022.
2022 minus 2006.
What's that?
16.
Really?
Right?
do the math. Let's see.
It better be. I hope it is.
I'm going to challenge you. On
I shudder to think what the bookkeeper's going to think if she watches this podcast, and I can't do simple math. But
so it was 2022
minus
2006. 16. You're right.
Boom. Smarter than I look, and that's not saying much. Yeah, it's just nuts, man. It's the whole, just everything everywhere is just crazy, and I guess all we can do is just keep putting our best foot forward, like you've been doing, reinventing. I've been doing some reinventing too. What are you gonna do? Just sit around and go, well, it's hard. I don't know, I
did that for the first year of COVID.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got really sick. So
did you get it?
I've had COVID before. I didn't get it then, but I was sick with something else just before COVID. So that had some knock-on effects, in the last couple of years. So I've been trying to get healthy mentally and physically.
Get in that cryo, bro.
Yeah. I've been doing the cryo.
Freeze it out.
Yeah, the cryo is great.
Yeah, I bet it is. Do you have one in your house?
Well, I've been doing cold showers for the last 20 years,
have you?
But it's just not the same level,
Well, so you know who Wim Hof is?
Yeah, very
the
well.
Iceman. Yeah. Do you do his breathing stuff too?
I don't do his breathing stuff.
Unreal, man.
I've heard so.
I'd get
I had
on
a friend
YouTube.
who did the course and
just do the one. Just do the one when you YouTube
I've got his
him.
app.
Dude, just do the first one on there.
Really?
It's 11 minutes.
Yeah.
Lay on the ground.
Yeah.
You can lay flat. If you sit up, you get too hot. Lay on the ground. If you have a couch, put your legs up on the couch like an L, but lay your back like how soldiers sleep. If they have 20 minutes to sleep, they get their unreal.
Well, the astronauts when they're taking off, they got that position.
Yeah, you'll. It's pretty crazy,
Really?
man. Yeah. You'll be shocked how
I tell you,
long...
I'm a firm believer in those cold showers. You know that in the morning, I can't even have a warm shower anymore. That's how used to my body's used to the
You're
cold.
going straight, just tap cold.
Just tap cold water. It's not that cold, but I mean, still your body doesn't like the cold.
It's not, yeah.
But I tell you, first 5 seconds you're cold, but then your body, it's the weirdest thing, your body starts craving it,
That's
But I suppose that's with everything, we get used to anything, the human being.
Yeah, humans are very adaptable.
Very. I mean, that's so you see a battered woman stays in the relationship. Why? Because you get used to it.
Yeah,
it's
you
all
get
you know.
used to it. Yeah.
Crazy.
Battered women, the American
Battered
voting
men
public.
nowadays, like Johnny Depp.
Yeah. That's that entire thing is just
oh my goodness,
mind blowing. The back to the culture thing. maybe culture's overrated, especially if some of those more mundane tasks end up getting taken over by AI or just robotic machines that can just do a simple task that doesn't require a decision to be made. In which case there's going to be a lot of gurus out of jobs if core values and culture don't matter.
I don't know. I think culture's important. People, there's a difference between thinking and feeling. And feeling is more a subconscious thing. And if you look at the buying decision is made on how you feel about something, then we justify it with conscious thought. So I think feeling is a very important thing. I mean, people will buy a more expensive product because of how the business makes them feel, and I think you see that. I mean, you see that with Apple. You see how expensive Apple thing is, but you have this whole experience. That's a feeling when you're going to the store and, you get this feeling, or the product you buy makes you feel a certain way when you own the product, So I think culture, I still think culture is important, I know we're moving away from that a little bit, but, the companies that do culture and do it well, they're doing really well, So
yeah, and it seems like people, whether they know it or not, they might say, oh, yeah, I don't even have to leave my house. I can get everything from my couch with my phone. Mm-hmm. But when they need their AC fixed or their roof fixed or their lawn mowed, they for sure want to feel like they can trust whoever it is that's working on one of their main assets. Mm-hmm. And we talked before we went before we went live that being relationship oriented instead of transaction oriented is something that a lot of people preach. It's got to be relations. Relationships are important, but then what they actually do is very transactional. How have you seen that? Just in general, vague terms. You don't have to call anybody out directly. You can though.
Well,
and I'll share it and tag you.
I see that with everyone. They say the difference between belief and faith. So let's look at that. They say if you want to see the belief of an individual, in other words, what they believe, listen to what they say. But if you want to see the faith of an individual, watch what they do. So it's really in the doing where the real value lies. It's really in the doing is where you see where people, what they really believe in. I mean, I can tell you I love my kids, but if you never see me loving on my kids, do I really love them? It just becomes a lip service. So I think you're right. A lot of businesses say that the customer is the most important thing. But then when you watch what they do, they're just chasing the money. It's not really. And that becomes a lip service thing. And I think that is what creates the feel. People can feel that, People can feel when you're being authentic. I mean, you said that earlier about, somebody being authentic. Are you really authentic if you're not putting your money where your mouth is, as the saying goes? So,
in my space, which you're pretty familiar with, the construction, the restoration space, how do you see the difference between belief and faith? Is it, hey, you got a client, they called, they need help with something, it's not something you can make money on right now, and you just kind of, oh yeah, you got to find somebody else, I can't help you with that? Is that maybe, hey, I talk relationships, but when it comes to, that's not going to make me any money right now, I discard that. Can I tell them go look somewhere else? As opposed to, oh yeah, Lars, you need help with, you need a stone border around your flower bed. I don't do that, but I've got this affiliate partner over here. He's going to take care of you and give you the same pricing he'd give me. Is that kind of the difference that you see? Is that one of the things that
absolutely,
if it's not putting money in my account right now, I got no time for you.
See, and I think that is actually the problem. I feel that I've tried to do this my whole life and it's always done good for me in sales. If I can give you something where I don't really expect something in return, or you feel that I'm giving it to you and I'll help you regardless if I'm going to make money or not, that person ends up becoming a salesperson for you, because they'll be like, gee, this guy helped me and he didn't even make any money from it, but you need to use him. And that they've kind of become a marketing arm for you. And I think that's what that does is, and obviously it's a fine line because you're also not a charity, so you can't, do that all the time. But I think that, when you give somebody something and there's nothing expected in return, you get that law of reciprocation. They feel like they owe you. They feel like, hey, I really want to use this guy, because you're not just doing it because they're saying, I really care about you, but do they really? They're just trying to get my money from me. And I think there's too many businesses like that where, if there's nothing in it for them, they're just not going to help you. I've just never run my businesses like that. I've always run my businesses where I truly and genuinely try care for the people and do what's best for them, you know.
Another big colloquialisms that the coaches and the gurus will use is, hey, you got to add value. You know, you got to put up a post on social media. It's got to bring value. That's how you build an audience. You talk to a potential client, you got to bring value. And I feel like it's a great term and it's a great concept, but what's it fucking mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna walk up to you and give you a $10 bill. Is that adding value? I mean, that helps you with your gas. We put gas in your car, but what does that general meaning? Well, when you're explaining that to a coaching client, how are you explaining bringing value to every interchange? It's so broad. It's so overused.
Well, it's broad, and I think it's also, here is the challenge you do have with some people. Some people want the value, and you give it. But then they drop you for, 10 cents cheaper somewhere else. So that is a problem. And I think that's just, I think the world, it's the way the world's going, loyalty's going, honesty's going. I mean, I often tell, I've got these, the 7 Bs, and I never remember them all off by heart, but one of them is be honest. So there's like 7 things where I say be honest, be humble, for example. Be honest, be humble. But the be honest one, even dishonest people want to deal with honest people because they know where they stand. But I think honesty in general with people, it's not there anymore. People are taking shortcuts. People don't really add value. And like I say, I think they only add the value when there's something in it for them. And I think we need to move away from that because at the end of the word, if you give somebody a gift, they feel like they owe you, or they feel they have to give something back. And that becomes the law of reciprocation. I think if we all went into transactions where we could say, hey, I want, how can I do this deal where we both benefit? If we're both doing that, both people will benefit. But I think, and I'm sure you see it, especially in our industries, is, people are quick to, as long as I make money, I don't care about them, And that's why, I was in a business with another person, and that's kind of where we went, where, if there was no money in it for them, they just wouldn't give the same level of service. And I just didn't operate that way, So I do think it's important. But at the end of the day, it's a strategy. What are you choosing? There's no right or wrong, really. Just there's, I think, better or worse. And some people just, choose the wrong way, and they're still making money. I mean, they're still getting by. But I think they work a lot harder than the people who are honest. I think they work a lot harder. And at the end of the day, you've got to go home. You've got to look yourself in the mirror when you shower, or when you're shaving your face. So that's what my dad's always taught me. If you do the right thing, in the long run, I think it always works out for you.
Well, 100%. And in business, to me, the best business deals were the business deals where both parties want something. They both give a little, come to an agreement, and they both go away happy. They both had to give a little bit. If one party is only taking and the other party is only giving, the business transaction may happen, but it's going to be exactly that. A transaction where
there's no even keel.
No. And you probably won't even get a good review because they just feel like you were here for one reason and one reason.
Well, see, that's the feel I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That is a huge impact.
Now, this ain't the Salvation Army, man.
No.
Like, we got to pay mortgages and bills, and I got to pay for...
And people know that. People know you've got to make money.
Yeah.
It's not illegal or immoral to make money.
No. In fact, I probably don't want to work with somebody who's ambitionless and doesn't have much of a sense of, aspiring. I want to be around someone who does hustle, who's like, hey, I got a bunch of clients, but I'm going to spend this hour with you. They turn their phone over. It's notes, it's questions, it's getting on the same page. I think there's a place for that. And I think that slowly but surely, people who do run their businesses that way are they are separating themselves quicker.
And they also last longer, because I mean, the percentages of a startup succeeding are very low. And I think the ones that do succeed do tend to adopt true principles, which is what we're talking about. The closer you stick to a principle, the better it is,
The client experience is just so next level important. You go into a store, you buy a product, and the product fails or something happens. When you call back, you don't arguing about it's not. We'll make it right. So email us a photo, we'll figure it out, we'll make it right. That's what a client, that's what a customer, a client wants. I paid this money. It was hard to earn. I want my couch. and I paid for a full couch, and you told me in 6 months I'd get the ottoman. It's been a year. Where's my fucking ottoman?
Yeah.
You know what, sir? We're going to refund you for the whole thing. You can keep the couch or return it. Had that experience at Nebraska Furniture Mart. And it was refreshing. But I've even noticed a dip there because they're having a hard time on the back end with personnel. Like you buy something, you drive down, they load your vehicle
I
up.
waited 4 hours at Nebraska for a couch.
Under the...
Yeah.
4 hours?
4 hours we waited for this.
Bro.
It was crazy. Lucky I had a friend there and we caught up, but we waited 4 hours and everybody was waiting. But I don't know I think they also messed up our order because we saw people come and go, but also the thing we had ordered apparently was right at the back, so they were doing everybody else, you know. But it was because they were short on staff.
That's the thing, yeah. And it's crazy because you got great sales folks. They're super helpful. They're obviously making a little cut on every little commission. Then on the back end, when the order goes to get filled, then you leave and you have a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
And that's really the complexity of running a business, right? But we can come out of the gates as strong as possible. But if we stumble in the middle and don't make it right, you're not going to go away from that going, that was a peerless experience. That was an experience I'm going to tell my neighbors about before they even ask me, do you know someone who can build me a deck? And that's the challenge. And that can't always just be a top-down thing, can it? It can't just be the owner going, do better, right? There's got to be systems and processes put in place where everyone's got an attention to detail. And if you don't own the company, why would you have an attention to detail other than possibly making more money? Is that also something that ties to culture where, hey, we all go the extra mile because we know that it is actually going to do better for us economically if we do?
Well, what affects culture probably the most with employment is that 67% of people are on jobs they don't want to be on. So that comes down to something called job fit. Job fit has a huge part to play in a culture of a company. You know, somebody who wants to be at a company will outperform somebody a minimum of 2 to 1. So they'll do double the production, somebody who doesn't want to be there. And they've even found regardless of the skills. Here's the challenge. It becomes a hiring thing. If you get somebody's resume, based on the resume, we bring them for an interview. That's called the interview process of bringing somebody in. You've got a 14% chance of hiring the right person. In other words, out of 7 people you hire, 1 is right, 6 are wrong. That's a job fit thing. And that's then what we'll do is when we hire the wrong person, we watch them over time. And in, say, 8 months comes along, we realize, okay, this is the wrong person. It has a huge impact on productivity, has a huge impact on culture of the business. Because if you surround top performers by somebody who doesn't perform, it intrinsically demotivates them. So it's a huge problem. So hiring the wrong people, like I say, using a resume and bring them for an interview, you got the 14% chance of hiring the right person.
That's a nasty number, man. That's a very discouraging number.
That's the reality.
So how do you fix that?
With assessments. So you can assess somebody, you can do that in real time where you're watching somebody over time, or you can do it scientifically where you're using a productivity tool or an assessment tool called a job fit tool. And that can increase it to 75%. In other words, out of 4 people you hire, 3 are right, 1 is wrong. You'll never have, just because the human dynamic is exactly that, ever changing. But, I'm not a betting man, but 75% compared to 14% is a big difference, you know?
Hell of a difference. On those, that's like a personality type test where they're
more
taking
behavior.
KPIs.
So core behavior. Because personality and behavior are slightly different. So
people don't go on those and just fill in the bubbles to tell you what you want to hear so they can get the job?
That's why you've got to use the right tool. So there's 1,400 different assessments on the market. Only 21 of them are what you call predictive index. So that's the tool you've got to use. They're actually predicting something. And that's why I say that's the difference between behavior and personality. Because if you look at personality, it's basically what they call a self-report. If you tell me you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, then you're the greatest thing since sliced bread because that's what you believe. Whereas a normative assessment, which is predicting, is called predictive index, is actually predicting compared to something else. And that's something you can benchmark. I can literally go into an organization, let's say there's 10 people, let's say 3 out of them are top performers. We can measure them, create a benchmark, and hire according to that. It's kind of like human cloning. You can clone that top performer because they have similar traits that the job requires.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think the challenge now is just getting the people to take that test. Because you get 15, 20 applicants. Of those, you can split that right in half.
Yeah.
10 of those will ghost you. and then you can split that in half again, where the interview is so bad you don't give a damn what that predictor assessment says.
Well, and you're 100% right, but that alone becomes a pre-qualifier for getting onto the job. Do you know, this is what they found. You look at the most successful companies in the world. I'll give you one that's very well known for hiring. It's Unilever. If you look to get a job at Unilever, you have to jump through so many hoops that because there's so many hoops to jump through, they lose people on the way. But who do you think the people are that they lose? People that don't fit the job.
Flakes, yeah.
So, you know, the harder it is to get in somewhere, the greater the barrier to entry, the better the industry normally is. You know, and I mean, you just look at that. There's 5 hated professions that they do a survey on every year. What do you think the 5 most hated jobs in America are?
Hated jobs? Oh, hated professions? Oh, man. I don't think that... garbage man?
Okay, no. That didn't hit the list.
Teacher?
No.
Preacher?
No.
Hitman? I don't know. 5?
You ready?
Yeah.
Lawyers?
Okay.
Timeshare stroke network marketing, they fall under the same category. Okay. Insurance salespeople, car salespeople, real estate. Those are the 5 most hated professions from the customer's point of view.
Oh, I got you. Okay. I got you. Not the people doing the job. No. Sorry.
So in other words,
I'm like, lawyers hate being lawyers? Because I know a lot of lawyers.
They hate it because of their profession.
They fucking love that everyone hates them.
They bottom of the list probably every year. But in 2009, I think it was realtors hit the bottom of the list because of the crash. When ironically, it should have been the lenders, because the lenders are the ones that got us into the trouble. Seriously. But the point is this, is that the lower barrier to entry you have, the easier it is to get in. You draw people that aren't very good, you know. But those are the industries where you can make a difference. You look in the roofing industry, for example. In the roofing industry, I mean, is it difficult to become a roofer?
No.
It's pretty easy, right?
Correct.
So are there a lot of cowboys in the industry?
Just a few.
Okay. So there's a lot of people that's probably not good in the industry. A lot of fly-by-nights, a lot of people, scam artists, a lot of people trying to take you, you know, and take your money. So what they found was the insurance industry just did this a couple of years ago, where it was easy to become an insurance agent. Now they make it difficult. Now the level of insurance agent is a lot better now. So they're probably going to be off the list very soon as hated profession, because now when you deal with somebody, it's not just somebody just trying to hook you for the money. So that's what I believe. The point is this, going back to the Unilever example, you know, the greater the barrier to entry, the more you it's a sifting process of getting, you know, what's actually good for the business. So I think that's very important.
Do you say, in your opinion, do good companies have people that work for them and they're able to find new personnel because they're happy employees are out telling their friends and family how...
100%. And that's where culture comes. When you're in a company where it's difficult to get in, and once you get in, they're good people. Everybody wants to work there, and everybody wants their mates who are good to work there. So it's kind of... And it's the same example of what I gave you with the Cryocon conference. The first year we had to chase people down to be sponsors. The second year, because the conference was so successful, we didn't have to reach out to anybody. Everybody was reaching out to us, to the point where we had 10 extra people that we could have, if we had a bigger venue, we could have had 10 extra sponsors. So that's a good problem to have, where people are knocking, you know, beating your door down to be employed by you, like Unilever. I mean, to get in Unilever, everybody wants to work there, you know, just because it's such a good culture. They pay well. And, you know, they don't pay people, and this is what they found with pay, you know, as a motivation to work. You don't pay somebody to get them to work harder. You pay somebody to attract the right person in the first place. The right person with the right attitude will work regardless what you pay them. Now, does that mean to say you can pay them too little? No, because if you don't pay them well enough, there's somebody else that will, because they're top performers. And they'll always be headhunted, you know. So you pay them just to attract them in the first place, because they've got the right attitude. They'll work because they have the right attitude and work ethic, you know.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Having rubbed elbows with lots of gurus, stage speakers, coaches, etc., what are some red flags that young entrepreneurs... So it's always the promise of, oh man, I'm going to scale you. You're going to be loaded, Lambos all over. You sell this thing in 2 years, move to bees, whatever, bro. Yeah. What are some red flags that these young dudes or gals who are like, I want to open a cryo spot, or I want to open a roofing company, or a buy here, pay here car lot, what do they need to be looking out for? And do you think, well, I'll let you answer, then I'll ask you this one thing that just bugs the fucking shit out of me. And
So
see what
are you
say about
asking
that.
what they should look for in a mentor or a...
So a mentor to me is someone who you give value to and they give value back, right? I want to know something from you, so I'm going to come help you out. Hey, man, can I mow your lawn? And then, have an iced tea with you and you tell me how. These coaches or gurus for hire, right? They're out, they're glitzy, they're advertising everywhere, trying to attract an audience with all these promises of greatness. If you want to hire a guru, that's great, go for it. But what do you need to look out for in terms of what's your bullshit meters need? What are the red flags to keep an eye out for?
Person asked this because red flag for me, if the guy's driving a Lambo and pushing the Lambo more than what he does, then we're selling people on the result of success.
The lifestyle.
The lifestyle. We tend to think that, he drives a Lambo, so he must be successful. I think the metric we use to measure success is the incorrect one. I mean, if you look at success as defined as the achievement of something planned or attempted, especially the achievement of fame, wealth, and power. So that's the dictionary definition of success, the achievement of fame, wealth, or power. I've met people who have fame, wealth, and power who have arrived there only to feel unsuccessful or to arrive there to only feel unfulfilled. So I think we need to redefine what success really is. It's not just about making money. And I think that's kind of with the internet, especially and social media, that's what the social media is painting this picture. Oh, they must be successful. Oh, look at that couple. They're a successful couple. Only to a month later, they're divorced. So I think a lot of this, what appears to be successful is not successful. It's the same with, I was talking to somebody on the way over here this morning that I spent some time with about confidence. And there's a saying I have that confidence is a knowing, not a showing. So if you're confident, you don't have to show you're confident because it's something that comes from internal. In fact, the loudest person in the room, the world deems as, they must be confident. But in my experience, true confidence is not loud. It's a quiet thing. It's a knowing, not a showing. Does it make sense? So if you have to tell somebody you're rich, if you have to tell somebody you're confident, you're probably not.
Yeah.
So, and I made a post about that the other day, so, what you tell people is not necessarily what you are. That comes from or can come from an insecurity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've all turned into self-marketers because of social media.
100%. And everybody's a guru. Everybody now's coaching somebody else to be a guru.
Yes.
So how did you become a guru? I just decided to become a guru.
Right.
I've never owned a business, but I'm teaching people how to own a business.
Yeah, have you ever run a team?
Yeah.
Have you ever dealt with debt? Have you ever, I mean, what hardships have you had to navigate that might tell me that you're the right person for the job of telling me what I need to do in terms of what my next step is to be successful? And I agree with you on everything about success. To me, success is the definition that each individual human has for that success. I can say I'm not in business just to, shake hands and kiss babies, Neither are fucking politicians. They're all there to line their pockets on 100% it is. But helping people feels awesome. Getting paid then also to help people also feels awesome. So I think that the definition of success for sure, I just see so many of these young, impressionable dudes. They really want to get somewhere. They watch Wolf of Wall Street. Maybe they go listen to that dude talk on a stage about how he ripped a bunch of people off and now he's changed or whatever. More power to that guy too. I'm not hating on anybody. I'm just saying there's not an easy button in business, man. Show the fuck up every fucking day. And if you can fight through how mundane the day in, day out is and not quit.
Because most of the things in business are mundane, things you don't want to do.
Next level mundane.
Yeah.
And you can't, in a startup, just go, delegate it. To who? We have a finite amount of resources 100%. To run this thing with. Yeah. I'm going to have to do a lot of this myself. And if I can't buckle down and get up on time and do these mundane things, then I'm going to fail. Are you, when you're talking to someone who you're coaching, are you hitting them with that devil's advocate real talk as much as you're hitting them with 100%. The encouragement?
And that's why I always got to tell, because, my coaching training is very different. I tell them, if you're not willing to hear the truth, I'm probably the wrong coach. In other words, if you want somebody to tell you, as my example with, going to my friend in the restaurant business, hey, should I do this? If they're not willing to tell you the truth, then you just want to hear what you want to hear. That's not going to help anybody,
Yeah.
So what is the one thing you don't like, you say?
I don't think that I can take someone seriously when they're talking to me from a stage and they've never done what I'm trying to do because there's certain things in different industries that make you can't just get on a stage and go, just go hire a bunch of badass people, you'll be fine. That's way oversimplification. So,
and I think that's what most people do.
You
They
think? I mean,
oversimplify, or they're selling you something that's just regurgitated over and over again.
or there's these very hollow, ambiguous promises that live somewhere in the ether that they never produce. And then they get fired up at you if you go, hey, so I did this, and this isn't happening. Hey, man, rise above, bro. Like, come on, dog. Like, you just got to, like, fuck, bro. You know what I mean? And you're like,
you know
no.
what I do when somebody tells me, oh, we guarantee you that, you do this campaign, click per view or whatever. I hit back with them. I say, well, if this works so well and you really believe in this, why don't you pay for it? You do it, and I'll split everything with you.
Yes.
And if they're willing to, because I do that sometimes, I'm so confident in what I do to make you more productive, I'll split the difference with you. Yeah. And I've done that before, and then people regret it because what you were actually asking them, what you end up growing the business by, is like this,
Yeah.
So
I think, too, that there is just so much fluff. There's a lot of whipped cream, and there's not very much actual pie under there.
And here's the problem: what's true and what's not true. That it's becoming so difficult to know what truth is anymore.
Right,
it's a huge problem, and it's demotivating. I mean, like when somebody sells something on the internet, it looks great. I mean, I'll even look at something and think, but what is true? Is it really true, or is it just fluff? And that's the hardest thing to determine what it is.
Well, yeah, and I think too, like, hey, can you? I want to hire you as like my entrepreneur coach. Can you point me in the direction of some folks who don't pay you anymore, but who you helped, right? Because much like maybe a counselor, I'm coming to you to help me solve this problem, get through this trauma, and then we're done. I'm not coming back here every week for the next 30 years. Like, get that out your mind. If a guru can't tell you or a coach can't tell you, call this guy, this lady. I worked with them 10 years ago. They're off to the races. I freelance for them every once in a while. See what they have to say. Then to me, I'm calling bullshit. And if most of what I hear are things I want to hear, or I'm just getting excited because they're waving something shiny in front of me, then I also know that it's probably too good to be true. And it's very rare, in my observation, 99.999% of things that sound too good to be true are.
Yeah, I'd say exactly the same thing.
It's
like if somebody comes to me and says, hey, you've got to have this opportunity. It's so easy. You don't even have to work. That goes against the principle.
Yes.
Because one of the principles, in fact, if you're religious, one of the first commandments was, by the sweat of your brow, you'll earn your keep.
Yep.
So somebody says you're not going to sweat with your brow. Well, then you're going against what God says.
Work hard and become a leader.
Yeah.
Be lazy and never succeed.
Yeah.
Very famous proverb that my mom just hammered into our frontal cortex growing up. And there's no replacement for work. Now, work smart,
yeah, 100%.
But I also have a problem with the work smarter, not harder. Because if I'm working smarter, then I should also be able to work harder, which is going to make me more productive, and that's right down my alley.
And you're right, success requires work. If anybody, and that's a huge red flag for me. If somebody's got shiny objects they have to dangle in front of me to get me to buy, there's a red flag. The other one is if it goes against true principles that have been around for thousands and thousands of years, another red flag. Like work.
Yeah.
They tell you, oh, it's easy, you don't even have to work. Network marketers are the worst at this. You don't even have to do anything.
Yes.
The business just runs itself.
Right.
Well, not in the beginning, because most of those network marketing people are working a lot harder, a lot longer than most other people in a regular job.
Yes,
sure, it gets to the tipping point.
No doubt.
But
well, and let's compare two things. So these like guru conventions where you go, we got a bunch of guest speakers, everyone's dropping F-bombs, they're all tatted up, look at the parking lot, so many cool. And then you go to that event, you get all pumped up, which means what? Your emotion, they're playing to your emotions. Emotions have no place in business, not at all. Do we get mad? Do we get sad? Do we get, yes, frustrated, all that. But you have to divorce yourself from that, make the next right decision, and move on. And so all this emotional shit, you may as well go to a non-denominational church, have a nice praise and worship, cry a few tears, thank you, Jesus.
That's what most churches are.
That's right. That's right. And there's nothing being said from the pulpit that's, damn, I'm falling down on the job as a father, a brother, whatever. And so I see the same I draw similar comparisons, and I'm not here to hate on anyone. I'm just confused because it seems like it's really easy to spot a con artist, but these con artists seems like that space has just exploded in the last few years.
Yeah, that's my pet hate as well. But it's also, I mean, there are some gurus out there that do drive a Lambo that do have substance, but it's very few and far between.
Get all your Lambos, man. I don't even care. Get a Rezvani. Get a Pterodyne Gurkha. I want to drive in that thing someday. But don't tell me that, if you roll over here, I mean, do you ever meet someone, they want you to coach them, but what they want to do, they're just not the right person for.
Absolutely.
And you're just like, hey, man, I don't know how to tell you this, but you don't have the charisma to speak from the stage. Yeah, what do you do? How do you
I just don't take every client, you know? But I plant the seeds. I still give to them because they could come around. I've had people come back in a year's time and they're already because of the seed I planted, you know? But sometimes they have to go through that process themselves. They have to learn themselves. They have to bang their head themselves. I mean, I love that saying, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And dying is the price you have to pay to go to heaven. So nobody wants to put the work in. You know, they all want the result, but they don't want to put the work in.
Yeah.
So, and I think you're right. You know, you touched on something. I think most people nowadays are selling an event, not a process. Because, you know, the world has become instant gratification, instant quick fix. You know, we got drive through everything. We want instant packages delivered. And we just don't want you know, success is not about what you get. It's about who you become on the way. That's true success.
Absolutely.
So that's the process, you know. But most people are selling an event. Hey, if you come on our event, your life's going to be changed.
Yeah.
It can be anything further from the truth.
No doubt.
You know, change is a process. It happens over time. It doesn't happen on going on a weekend getaway, you know, team build, going to, you know, some sweat box or something, and you're going to come out changed. Now, that could trigger the process to start. But if you don't have the follow-up with that, I mean, the fortune, you know, in everything, the fortune's in the follow-up. The fortune's in the process, not in the event.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think that famous Zig Ziglar quote is true, that if you spend your life helping other people get what they want in life, you will get everything you want in life?
I do believe that.
Yeah?
Yeah. I do believe that to an extent. Obviously, I mean, we're not a charity.
No, the check's got to clear.
Of course.
Right?
But I do think if you focus on other people getting what they want, you tend to get what you want, even if it's not from the person you're helping.
Yeah, so
that person might be a taker, you know?
Yeah, and that goes back to what you were talking about in sales. If you're bringing something to the table and no obligations, I'm going to provide you with this information, or I'm going to educate you about this. Yes, if you hire me, that helps pay my bills and put my kids through college, but I'm also helping you get what you need, and I'm giving you an honest assessment. I'm not even here selling you. Is that the biggest mistake salespeople make? Is they just go in and they're looking for the hard close?
I definitely think it is. You know, if you look at the word close alone, and this I teach in my courses, you know, I'll ask, you know, 100 people come on a course, and I'll ask them, what does it mean to close? So if I'd ask most salespeople, what does it mean to close? What would they say? Would you?
Well, I need that check and that signature.
So it means getting the sale, right?
Yep.
Here's the challenge with believing that closing means getting the sale. Closing doesn't mean getting the sale. Closing actually means to get to a decision. And yes or no is a decision. And why that's important to understand, because if you look at your subconscious brain, if it's there to protect you from pain, if you going in thinking that to close means to get a sale, your brain then will avoid any conversation where you think you could get a no. And that's why most salespeople don't ask for the business. Why? Because they're too scared to hear no. And that's a protection mechanism. That's the way your brain protects you from failing, from making mistakes or getting hurt. So that's why I try to teach people up front that getting to know is essential to get to, because most people will drag you along because you're not asking the question, just because you don't want to get to a no, so you don't ask them those closing questions, you know. But if you get to a no from somebody, you can move on to somebody who does, you know, give you a yes. You don't have to waste your time spinning your wheels with people who will never buy from you.
That's another quote. Have you heard that? SW, some will, some won't, so what? Someone's waiting. Swipe, pull that up. You'll probably recommend Jack Canfield. Do you know Jack Canfield?
Yeah.
That's an awesome quote, because yes, a lot of people in sales are very afraid of the no. The no is it's an answer.
Of course.
To me, when I'm in sales, I'm trying to get a deal done. It's the middle ground, the gray area of you know, and I don't even know, and no. What's your budget? Are you looking for the best guy for the job? Cheapest guy for the job? most free shit for that? What is it that you want? And then let's go. I can either make it happen or I can't, but I can definitely tell you one way or the other.
100%.
And do you find that was I right?
Yep.
Oh, man, look at that memory, man.
Hey, dude,
Dang.
that's something that I'm losing my memory. Yeah, you got a great memory. I've noticed that every time I meet you, you remember something that I think to myself, man, he must have a good note-taking system.
You know what it was?
Have a good memory.
No, you know what it was, man? Growing up, it was a requirement in school. I grew up in church school, like all the way through. We had to memorize scripture.
I've noticed that with you.
And I had to memorize, we would memorize like entire books of the Bible throughout the year. Like this chapter for this month. And then at the end, the biggest award at our school went to those who could say the whole thing back from memory. So Psalm 119, the longest psalm in the Bible, 100% front to back memory. Yeah, hardcore.
I like that. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, some
I've heard
will.
That some will, some won't.
Yep. So what? Someone's waiting. I think it's great. I think it also lessens you do, to a degree, in sales, have to kind of have a little bit of a cold heart. If someone says, no, I went with someone else, that can't ruin your day.
No.
If someone says, you know what, Lars, I'm going to go with you, that can't make your day.
No.
Because if it makes your day, you're done with your day. And you need to go.
That's why I think success is about learning to let go. Don't have that attachment to things that we don't control. And that's the problem with the human being. We try and be in control of things that think about what we literally, what are we in control of? Not much.
Very, very, very little.
I mean, you can live as healthy as you want. You could walk across the street and get hit by a bus. So,
absolutely.
So we control very, very little. The only thing I think we do control is our power to choose. That's it. And by choosing, that has consequences. And that's what we forget, is that our choices do have an effect on us. Our choices do have consequences. Our choices do affect what comes in return from us,
Yep.
So
when you're coaching salespeople, are you coaching them to go at the objections piece? Is it, hey, so I know you probably met with some other car dealers, what's standing in the way of you making a decision now?
Okay, great question. So here's what I
do there.
So I believe there are 3 core skills you need to sell, and they're in a specific order. So this is what makes our training very different to most.
3 core skills. 3 core skills.
3 keys or 3 core skills. Okay. And it's in this order. Number 1, the ability to qualify somebody.
Okay.
Number 2, the ability to present. And number 3, the ability to close to get a decision.
Are those in order of importance?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Now, let me show you why.
Okay.
So I've been in the training and coaching industry for going on now I think I'm on my 29th or 30th year. So if you look at that, most training and coaching, what do they focus on? How you present and what you say, and getting to close. They talk about closing. Hey, you got to close. Always be closing.
ABC, bro.
Always be closing.
Coffees for closers, bro.
And you know what I say? Always be qualifying. Because if you look at qualifying gets me to talk 30% of the time and to get you to talk 70% of the time. But most training and coaching, you go on sales training and coaching, they're teaching you how to present, they're teaching you how to close. They don't teach you how to qualify. Now, why is qualifying so important? Because qualifying makes the sale... Well, here's what I tell people. If you want to sell more, stop selling. Get people to buy. How do you get people to buy? By qualifying them. Asking them qualifying questions. Why? Because the sale becomes self-evident. You don't have to be a great presenter. You don't have to be a great closer. Why? Because people will close on their own. If you're qualifying them enough, if you make them feel the pain, they'll beg you for the solution. And that's why number 1 makes number 2 and number 3 almost obsolete if you do it correctly.
So the qualifying piece, the most important piece, all comes down to the questions that you bring to the table. Because then when you're asking those questions, then obviously actively listening, right, responding, maybe taking. I find that taking notes when you're with a client, it gives them a feeling.
Mm-hmm. It also slows the process down.
Yep.
You see, because when you write notes, people will wait for you to finish the note. If you don't write notes, they expect you to answer quickly. So you don't have that leeway. And I can tell you 1 second of waiting can mean the difference between making this choice, making this statement, making this choice, and making this statement. Make sense? So the more time you have to think, the more intelligent your question is. Mm-hmm. The more time you have to think, the more time you have to respond with an intelligent answer, not just the answer that you think it should be or something that you conditioned to give. You don't even think about it. I mean, when somebody asks you, how are you doing? What's your natural answer?
Fine.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Meantime, what happens? You're having a shitty day.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yep.
So that's the problem. But if you really had to think about it, and somebody said, and that's why I always ask somebody, how are you doing? And they say, great. And I say, how are you really doing?
Sure.
Then you get this answer where they actually have to think. They're going, shit, actually, you know.
Tough one.
Yeah,
having
I'm
a tough
actually
one.
not having a good time.
So I know those qualifying questions are probably very industry specific, which is, you know, if you're selling a car or a roof or a coaching clinic or, I don't know, event space for a guru convention.
They're very seldom industry specific.
Okay, what are they?
So what I do is, so that's why, you know, I coach and train in many different industries. So what I teach is what you call a framework. The framework doesn't change whatever industry you're in. So if you're in roofing or if you're selling coaching, the framework's the same. Now, the words you hang on the framework may be different because they're specific to your industry, whereas you're talking about a roof. But making somebody feel the pain, that process is the same. It's like going to the doctor. The doctor, when you you come into the doctor, what's the first thing he does?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when you tell him, what does he do after that? He doesn't just write you a prescription. What does he do? Well, go take your clothes off and let me make that thing feel painful. That's
how
the
many
same
drinks
process.
are you having a week? How much do you
But
smoke?
also then he'll, you know, you got a sore elbow. He'll touch and feel it where you're going, oh, yeah, that's sore. He makes you feel the pain so that when he gives you the prescription, what are you doing? Man, I'm taking that thing.
Absolutely.
But we don't do that as salespeople. What do? We start presenting straight away. I mean, there's 6 steps to a sale and we miss the first 3. We go straight into the 4th one, which is present.
And the presentation is often what customers, clients complain about.
Of course.
A window salesman came to my house. A solar guy knocked on my door. 3 hours later, we're still sitting here talking about shit I don't even want to buy, and I don't know how to get them out of my house.
Well, that's because we don't learn how to qualify. So that's why qualifying is the most important thing. And
like, do you even want this? Have you studied it all?
Why did you call me here? Because here's the thing about the customer. Is
that the best first question? Why am I here?
It could be. Yeah, it's like, why did you call me today?
How can I help?
What's the specific problem you have that I can help with? I do my close up front though. I say, you know, today I'm going to present a couple of things to you, but before I do, I'm probably going to have to ask you a couple of questions to find out what your needs are.
Sure.
Once I've done that, are you the person who makes the decision on whether to buy or not? So I close them up front so we get it out of the way so they know I'm there to sell them something.
Right.
And I want you to know that if I discover if what I have is something that you don't need, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, and I'm going to be the first one to pack up and walk away.
Sure.
But that's why I try to get somebody to refer me, because I can say, you know, Jake told me to come and see you because he's really excited about what I did for his business.
Sure.
However, what works for Jake may not work for you. So the whole purpose of me being here today is to find out if what I have is something you could use. Mm-hmm. Would that be okay? That's the greatest question you can ask somebody.
Yeah.
Would that be okay? Why? Because it makes it your idea, and you're planting the seed to ownership on their idea. Because when you say, would that be okay? And they say yes, they think it's their idea.
Right.
It's like, oh, I've given them permission to do that.
Yeah.
And then you go into qualifying, and, you know, what's the problem you had? Now, I always try to dollarize that problem. You understand? Like,
Sure.
what's it costing you not to fix it? Because if your solution is 10 grand to fix it and the problem's only 5 grand, you know, I tell people, live with the problem.
Yeah.
And that's where your credibility, that's where authenticity comes, where you're not trying to sell me, because I could take it's 5 grand, but if the problem's cheaper than the solution, why are you trying to fix the problem?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And in sales, like you said, doing 30% of the talking, 70% of the listening, super important.
Very important.
I mean, that's so important. Getting them to talk is all about asking those open-ended, non-yes or no questions. Would it be okay if I presented all this after is a yes or no question? They're going to say yes. They knew you were coming to their office or their house or whatever, so that's a yes. But then how is it that you craft additional open-ended questions? Is it more of a, can you just walk me through your experience with the last guy who tried to fix this so that I can try to put my finger on what didn't work so we can try to formulate a
100%.
strategy?
Yeah. I always try, you see, here's the challenge with being an expert in anything. You know, when you're an expert in anything and you know certain things, you're in the roofing business, for example. You know more about roofing and what things are called than the customer does. And if you start using words they don't understand, here's what happens to the brain. When the brain doesn't understand something, it closes down. When it understands something, it opens up.
So
people
they just
only buy
glaze
when
over.
they glaze over and they're thinking about what you said. Their brain literally stops at the point it doesn't understand.
Okay.
You understand that?
So you got to talk to them at their level.
Well, the first question asked now, you know, tell me what you know about roofs. Tell me what you know about the insurance process of replacing your roof. And you shut up and listen. And they'll tell you exactly what it is. That it creates two things. One, you're qualifying them. You get to find out what the real problem is. And two, you make them feel important because nobody cares what you think. They care what they think. And I've actually got the saying, if you can just get people to tell you what they already know, they'll consider you a genius. So let me say that again. If you can get people to tell you what they already know, they'll consider you a genius. So that's the principle of getting people to speak. And they've done studies where they show that salespeople talk too much. They talk 70% of the time, only listen 30%. That has to be flipped around.
It's drawing them out. It's getting them to explain, which a lot of times does just take patience and the ability to hang in there.
Because they often don't know. Yeah. By asking questions is they're now reasoning it in their mind. And that's why the sale becomes self-evident, because they're going, jeez, I understand this now. Wow, and the solution he has, it's exactly what I need. Hey, when can I get that? Now they're asking you without you having to close them because they're closing themselves. That's the beauty about qualifying. But we just don't know how to qualify. And there's different things that you have to qualify and different people within a sale you have to qualify, especially in a complex sale.
And this is a study more in psychology than it is anything
100%.
else, right? And is the problem and the reason why qualifying questions aren't answered and why listening isn't practiced more because you got a sales force, they're just getting, go sign deals, go get deals signed, go. And then they're too scattered or in a rush or that.
It happens before then.
Okay, when?
Between the age of 0 and 5. So between the age of 0 and 5, what are we telling kids? Don't ask so many questions. Because we got to answer them. Don't ask questions. Don't ask questions. Don't talk to strangers. Another one. So we condition away. If you look where you go to school, do you go to school to learn how to listen, or do you go to school to learn how to speak and present?
Speak and present.
Yeah, you don't go to school to learn how to listen.
No. I guess to a degree, if you go to a lecture style school, you do have to learn to listen to learn, right? You're listening to it being presented
but
to you.
But you're still spoken at, not with. They're not facilitating.
No, it's not a discussion. No, it's not this.
You look at most teachers, they don't facilitate, they present.
Right.
They're lecturing. So you're there to listen to me.
Yeah.
They don't say, hey, what do you know about science? What do you know about this? What do you know about the law of gravity? Well, I don't. Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah, and the other adage of, people do business with people who they know, like, trust. Very true. It's why
and that's Zig Ziglar.
Is that also, or
that's
Frank Kern, or there's a bunch of people who've said
that's that. Zig Ziglar. Everybody uses it, but it's Zig.
It's Zig. And that know, like, trust brings in the triangle of trust, where Nancy trusted Jess. Jess put on a good roof and did a good job. Nancy's friend Tom now trusts Jess because it's the triangle of trust.
Because you're selling Nancy. They trust Nancy, Yeah,
and then
that's
Nancy
why referral selling is so important.
Is it important to incentivize referrals? For instance, hey, thank you for your business. I really appreciate that. I just need you to sign this final form here. Says we did a good job. That way we can close out your claim. I also have 4 gift cards here, Applebee's, Chili's, I don't know, Macaroni Grill, whatever. I would like to give you a few of these. I will give you one for every person who you can refer me to. Is that tacky? Is that good? And here's why I ask. Always people will tell you, oh yeah, man, next time I'm at a barbecue, I'll tell someone about you. They don't remember you, man. Especially if you did a good job. Especially if it was a seamless experience. Is there a problem with this?
But you know why? Let's look at the why, not the what.
No relationship, probably.
Well, it's because, when do we pick somebody out for something? When they do something right or when they do something wrong?
Wrong. Look at reviews.
And that's just because of our conditioning.
Right. Negativity.
And that's why when I go in to train, especially leaders, I'll train and coach leaders and I'll tell them, pick out people doing things right. Because here's what happens with people. If you pick them out doing something, whether right or wrong, they'll do more of that thing. And it's not always conscious. So you pick somebody making mistakes all the time, those mistakes tend to get more and more. But if you pick them out doing something right, they tend to do those things more.
Maxing out your referral leverage, though, comes down to making sure that the client understands that, like, hey, I helped you here. This is how I make my living. I'm a lot like a realtor. I rely on sales to provide for my family. I would really appreciate if you could tell one of your neighbors about, and that does work sometimes. But when you
it does work with the cards because people do like to get something. But I don't believe you have to do that to get the. If you have a conversation where you're not doing it officially like you've just done,
right?
That's what I prefer to do. Where you're just having a conversation with somebody, you get to know the person. You say, hey, do you know anybody else that has a problem with their roof?
Yeah,
and they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike does. Hey, would you mind calling Mike and let him know I'm going to give him a call?
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of saying, hey, I know we did a good job and I'd like, because then it becomes a trade.
It does.
And then people, as soon as you bring trades in, people think, oh, I could lose something or there's something that I have to give.
True. And there is a balancing act between the trading and just trusting altruism. I did a really good job for Mrs. Jones, and she told Mr. Reynolds at the end of her block, well, that's awesome that she was nice and that she wanted to help, and that maybe she wanted to help Mr. Reynolds. But they don't do that naturally,
is what you're saying too.
Don't see it as much now as I did back in, the 90s when I started doing that. Yes, folks, I am that old. But it's a even though people want that relationship and they want to feel a certain way, everything kind of, to me, the way I see it, does percolate back toward a transaction. You can still have a relational transaction. I always tell our people this. People will always forget what you said. In fact, what we say means fucking nothing because so many people say one thing, do another. They're then actually going to forget what you did. You did a good job. They're going to forget, man. You put a roof on, that thing's not leaking. You sold them a car, it doesn't break down. They're done with you, man. It's over. They're never going to forget how you made them feel.
Okay, now, didn't I just say that? Remember in the beginning?
Yeah.
How you make somebody feel and how we feel is the key.
Absolutely. And
they do remember that.
Drilling down on that, how you feel piece that's difficult for some sales folks. They want to turn and burn, right? And if you can make that client feel like, well, I'm always available. So you text me anytime, even if it's on the weekend, I'm coaching my kid's soccer game, I will text you back when I'm back in the truck. You can call me anytime if there's a problem. And then I'm gonna communicate with you. I'm gonna update you before you even have to ask me what's going on. And then you create this sense of safety. Like, oh, I picked the right guy. I picked the right gal. They have my best interest in mind. They're thinking of me before I'm thinking of them. Difficult to impart that sometimes to sales folks, especially the ambitious ones, man. They're on to the next, and so it's this almost
we're chasing the money.
True. And you tell them SW, and you just got to move on. So it's that balancing act. Is that part of what you help people with when you coach them? Let's really make these clients feel cared for. Let's also watch the bottom line, and let's work
you know how
to
you
strike
do that.
a balance.
Peter Drucker, I don't know if you know who Peter Drucker was. He was a great management guru. He died a couple of years ago, but he was like a guy who came up with all these different management and customer service models. But he said, he would say, what is the purpose of a business? And I use this in some of my talks. So I'll go and train a bunch of business people. There'll be 100 there, for example. And I'll ask them, I'll say, what is the purpose of a business? And I'll go around the room. What do you think most people say is?
Make money.
To make money.
Right.
And this is what Peter Drucker said. The purpose of a business is not to make money.
Should be to solve a problem.
So here it is. It's such a fine line that we miss it. He says the purpose of a business is to create and to satisfy a customer, no more, no less. Now, does that mean to say that money is not important? No, but it's not the purpose. Because here's what happens when I focus on the money. Who am I thinking about?
Me.
Yeah, you understand?
Yep.
Me, myself, and I call it. All three of us.
The money's the byproduct.
Who do I forget about? The customer. So that's why if you create and satisfy a customer, so then what does money become if it's not the purpose? Money is simply the measure. It's like a measuring tool of how well you're doing towards your purpose, which
Love
is
that.
You understand?
That's
and that
awesome.
is key. And I can promise you, when you have that attitude, you stop chasing the money comes automatically. Money is kind of like a mirage in the desert. The more you focus on it, the further away it gets,
100%.
the closer you come. So it's very elusive money,
Yeah, and you'll notice that the more generous people, they were generous when they had nothing. And then, yes, it becomes those laws of attraction and abundance all work together there. And it's tough to strike that balance, but it's a balance that if you can strike, will pay off. When an aspiring entrepreneur or one of your kids comes to you and goes, Dad, I really want to start my own thing. What's your immediate, like they have no idea, they have no concept, they just know they don't want to work for the man. What do you tell them? How do you advise them? Is there anything right off the bat? Like Bradley, you know who Bradley is, sales guy, whatever, he's fine. He said, man, I run out of money today, I lose all my jobs. I sell everything I have. I go live out of an extended stay hotel, and for 2 weeks, all I do is get up every day, and I go around and I start making lists of problems that I see that I could figure out how to solve, and whichever one shows up the most, I'm starting a business on that. And I was like, that is distilled down the most simple explanation of how to start a business I've ever seen. Not I'm going to go do what I like or that, which is important, but it's I'm going to go find a problem, figure out how to solve it, and then market the hell out of that.
Well, I like that because I mean that's really what our job is, to problem solve.
100%.
But, you know what I have learned, and just because of the personality style I am, you know, I'm one of those personalities that's not that disciplined. But here's what I've learned about the discipline. Discipline in life, not only in business, is an absolute key ingredient. Because if you look at it, you know, I've had, for example, you know, contractors are not the most reliable. Let's say use a plumber. How many times have you needed a plumbing job done? You call 5 different plumbers, and who do you give the job to?
The one who answers.
The one plumber who actually arrives and comes to take a look. He's not the cheapest, but in the end of the day, he's disciplined. He comes when he says he does.
Mundane. That's mundane.
Just the mundane things.
Yes.
Doing the basics.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes you more successful than, you know, being skilled or.
Hey, best ability is availability.
Yeah.
If you're not around, you're not communicating,
100%.
You could be the best. You could be the hottest. You could have the greatest smile, the most working knowledge. If you're not around, you're not you're not closing that
And that's
deal.
why maybe your guy wants to look it up. Somebody said that I don't know what the percent. Let's call it 90% of success is just pitching. It was just arriving, showing up.
Yeah,
that's the
just
word
showing up.
We call that pitching, but you know,
90% no pitching up.
Pitching up.
That's showing up to the pitch.
Yeah.
No, that's I'm very familiar with that. Swight, you got some current events for us, man? I think there's a big death that went down today that I didn't even know about. Again. Yeah, I told you. See, that's skill, man.
Dang, dude.
That's calling your shot right there.
Yeah.
No, I'm just fucking around. You're an awesome interview. I think Ray Liotta passed away, which is horrible.
Yeah, I think
Ray Liotta did
I don't know how
pass
old he
away.
was. And in true form, I'd just like to point out that you're on a podcast with a construction guy, and we have actual construction noises taking
Do you think
place outside.
the mics are picking that up?
No.
Yeah, I think they probably are. So Ray passed away. What?
Yeah, Ray
67?
passed away, 67.
Hey, wasn't that old?
Went into
Can't-
sleep though.
He's
So
older than I thought, though.
Volume up, Swight.
yeah, Ray passed away, 67.
It's one of
Went
my
into
favorite
sleep.
movies, Goodfellas.
Oh my God.
Damn,
You know what? You know what else he was awesome in? Blow with Johnny Depp.
yeah.
My God, awesome role. Wow, that's just horrible. I mean, great character
Yeah,
actor.
I wouldn't have had him on my list of guys who are going to die this year. I'm still waiting for Keith Richards to die. That guy, I don't think he can die.
I'm telling you, man.
Dang,
No
he's-
doubt.
That guy is outliving all of us.
It's insane. It's all that healthy, clean living. Yeah. Does it say what he died of, Swight?
He just passed away in his sleep.
Man, that's terrible.
They probably still got to do the autopsy.
Yeah, like Bob Saget, man, right? He passed away in his sleep, and then they found he had a brain contusion?
I forgot he was in Field of Dreams.
Oh, yeah. Kevin Costner.
I actually have some scenes that we could go and watch to honor Ray Liotta, some of his best movies that he's
Big
been
Ray. He's awesome in Blow, man. Like I would want that guy to be my dad. You know, he loves George, even though George is like running coke and ruining his own life. His own mom turns him in, but there we go.
Johnny Depp.
If people want to reach out to you, what's the best email address? for him to
Lars
hit
at
you?
rewirex.com. So rewire, the letter x.com.
Okay, we'll put
Or
that
Ask
up.
Lofty is on my
Instagram?
Instagram, yeah.
All right,
Ask
awesome.
Lofty.
Appreciate you, man. I'll tag
Thank
you
you,
on
man.
everything.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for coming
Thank
back.
you.
Appreciate
Appreciate
your time. That was awesome. That was awesome. It's amazing to see the growth that's happening in the health, wellness, anti-aging industry. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Lars is an awesome guest, and it was great to have him back on the show. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. I really enjoy doing these. I'd love to know what you all think. If you want to drop a comment below, be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Hit me on Jess from the Northwest on Instagram if you've got ideas of other people that I could bring onto the podcast to showcase their fearless, do-it-yourself mentality. Until then, talk to you guys later.